Welcome back to Cosmic Comics. This is going to be a meaty episode. I'd love to dive right into the various entities from different dimensions that interact with the Earth 616 universe, but first we have to talk about what is the multiverse, and that is a very big question. It was only by sheer luck in doing research for the next episode that I ran across an official explanation in Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, issue number 21, printed in September of 1990. Even then, this great piece of work gets some things wrong, but at the same time is the best and most definitive resource on the multiverse I could find. So let's begin. This information comes to us via the Book of Vishanti. In order to understand the multiverse, one must first accept the fact that the concept of infinity is relative. This much is true. Unfortunately, the example they give is not. The example states that if we were to take two sets of numbers, one consisting of all the whole numbers to be counted, and all the odd numbers being counted, that there are twice as many odd numbers. We're told that one infinity is thereby included within another infinity. Unfortunately, the math on this one doesn't work out. These two are subsets of each other, but both are equal. I'll come back to this. The book goes on to state that mankind has always tried to make sense of the universe, and when those senses have failed, we have turned to math, which, according to the Book of Vishanti, is supposedly the signature of God, but then again, the book already got one thing wrong in the first panel. Then enters Georg Cantor. Here the Marvel universe and our own universe differ in a big way. Marvel states that he was a Russian monk. In the real world, Cantor was a Russian and a devout Lutheran, but he wasn't a monk. He was an academic mathematician. One whose ideas were so radical that he had to fight an uphill battle for acceptance his entire life. Some claimed his works challenged the uniqueness of the absolute infinity in the nature of God and equated his works with pantheism, a matter that this staunch Lutheran outright rejected. His own professor intentionally delayed the publication of his first major work and labeled him a corrupter of youth for teaching his ideas to younger mathematicians. Upon attempting to publish his works in the Swedish mathematical journal Acta Mathematica, he was asked to withdraw his work because it was seen as about 100 years too soon. Marvel states that Cantor died a madman. This is somewhat debatable, but he did indeed die inside of a sanatorium. But here we are, 100 years later, and his ideas are influential to the manner in which we understand the concept of the multiverse. Basically what this boils down to for the sake of the conversation ahead is that there is more than one kind of infinity. One kind of infinity is a countable infinity, and the other is a continuum or transfinite infinity. The multiverse is the latter. I will leave a link in the description below that covers the math behind all this so that I don't have to do it here. This leaves us with a transfinite number of universes, which are referred to as dimensions. For the rest of this video, the words universe and dimension will be used in an interchangeable fashion. Of the transfinite numbers of dimensions, Earth 616 is one. Also within the Earth 616 dimension exist concepts such as three spatial dimensions, which allow us to experience things such as places. Earth 616 is home to a variety of beings, each of whom is in a place at any given time. Example of these beings are Captain America, Galactus, an individual celestial. All of them are embodied within larger concepts such as eternity, infinity, and death. But more on those in a later episode. So we start with Earth 616, and from there it's not hard to imagine an infinite number of Earths, each being slightly different from the last. From the picture given to us here, one would be Earth S, home of Hyperion and the Squadron Supreme. The other Earths are sometimes referred to as alternate Earths, given different dimensional names such as Earth 617, Earth 618, Earth 619, etc. Or the example from earlier, Earth S. All of the variants have more in common than they do differences. They each have an Earth. They each follow more or less the same laws of science, etc. As we get further away from Earth and the transfinite infinity of dimensions, there are still other universes that have spatial dimensions, but the natural laws might differ. Science as we know it does not hold up within those universes, or it has a different set of laws on how that particular universe functions on a fundamental level. A couple examples given here are the negative zone and Polmachus. From there, we can move even further outward to pocketed universes that no longer have Earths, and the fundamental laws of science have been dramatically changed. These universes are still close enough to Earth 616 that the two can interact with one another. Here we find various gods and demons such as Thor and Odin within Asgard, or Mephisto within the Netherworld. The Book of Vishanti claims that both of these kind of universes on our peripheral prey upon our larger inhabited human universe. This makes some degree of sense, as the various pantheons need humans to believe in them to continue their existence, and beings such as Mephisto use the souls of human beings to draw power. Taking this into consideration, we can define pocket universes as universes that depend upon another universe to survive. Without the host universe, they cease to exist. Moving further outward from Earth 616, there exist universes with more spatial dimensions than Earth. Any human representation of these dimensions will always be distorted or incomplete. The examples given to us are the sixth dimension, the dimension of dreams, and the dark dimension. All great choices in my opinion to represent this concept. And then moving outward from there, this is where we go off the rails from what we typically see in the pages of Marvel. From here on out, we begin to discuss dimensions that are rarely seen. Rarely seen because we are moving further away from those that are close to Earth 616. Remember, these numbers and the possible dimensions that are possible continue to infinity. So, Earth has exactly 3 spatial dimensions. The planet Earth occupies a set of coordinates along an X, Y, and Z axis so that it can be found at any given time. The 6th dimension would presumably have 6 spatial coordinates. Dimensions that have a number of spatial coordinates ranging between approximately 2.7 and 6.3 are all grouped together in a cluster. So, yes, at least within the Marvel Universe, a dimension can have a fraction of a spatial coordinate. All of these have natural laws, and these laws may be based on a range of science to magic. These dimensions all share a commonality of concepts. Of note here, the Living Tribunal takes more or less the same shape throughout this cluster of dimensions. The lower universes are those with less than approximately 2.7 spatial coordinates, and the higher ones are those with more than approximately 6.3 spatial coordinates. Once we move beyond those two numbers, the dimensions we're talking about are no longer clustered near our own and begin to be truly different. Life can be found in these dimensions, but it's of an inconceivable nature to mankind. So following up on the Living Tribunal, once we move in this direction, the Living Tribunal takes on other shapes to administer to these clusters. Additionally, there are areas known as Nexus. Nexus are anomalies within the fabric of space-time, which can allow one access to portals which lead to other universes. Once one crosses beyond a Nexus, one can enter an area called the Nexus Interzone. This is seen as a crossroads between all the realities. Any given Nexus is typically guarded by a powerful guardian, and these guardians make up a group known as the Congress of Realities. Once you're inside the Nexus, then the multiverse as a whole has a meridian of power known as the Cosmic Axis. It's there that the multiverse's power acts in a manner similar to that of magnets with diametrically charged poles. My understanding is that this is not a place that can be seen, but one that can definitely be felt. I'd love to go into this one further, and I will once I reach Quasar Issue number 50, which at this point is going to take a while to get to. Okay, today we've looked at the multiverse as a whole and explained what it is. I know I said it would be this episode, but next episode we'll take a look at the various extra-dimensional beings that interact with the Earth 616 universe. Thanks for watching. Feel free to hit any of the buttons below. I'm out.